Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. I'm delighted to have another fan chat looking ahead to the Wolves versus Fulham game at the weekend. And we've got Sammy from Fulhamish. He'll have a skip in his step, a smile on his face because Fulham have won the last two games. I think for two games in a row I think maybe the first time this season, and looking good. Great to have you joining us back, Sammy.
Oh, hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I mean, Fulham, you beat United away. That was sweet. That last-minute goal, and then literally Brighton, you blew them away the weekend. Now Wolves played Brighton in the FA Cup in midweek. Now we did have a quick turnaround from the game against Sheffield United. We only had a couple of days to turn it around. We scored on the second minute, and we literally held on for like 93 minutes and got through to the quarterfinals of the cup. And then I'm watching Wolves at obviously at Newcastle, and Fulham have battered Brighton 3-0. I mean, I was so impressed with that because we struggled against them to even get the ball off. I mean, I'm thinking, what's the secret? What did you do?
I mean, there's an element of there was also points in the game where we weren't brilliant either. I think second half it was a little bit one-way traffic, and Brighton are magnificent at keeping the ball. We were just super clinical in the first half, took our chances. We've got players in form, and we just mostly kept Brighton at bay, kept them to kind of long shots, and didn't really give them too many chances. I think. Our striker Rodrigo Muniz is taking all the headlines at the moment, but
Well,
I
yeah,
think
he's on fire at the moment, isn't he? He's
he
like what's
is.
missing since Mitrovic left, apparently.
Yeah, he is. 5 goals, 5 games, and to say that no one at Fulham I saw this coming is the biggest. It wasn't like, oh, this is a player that actually we all saw the potential that he could do this. I think we all thought that there might be a bit more of a strike in there than we'd seen, but literally up until he scored his first Premier League goal against Burnley at the beginning of February, if you'd have told me he was going to score in 5 and 5, I'd have honestly thought you were a lunatic. I'd have absolutely thought you were a lunatic. But I'm so happy for him, and yeah, he might be the answer to the Mitrovic problem that we never knew we had.
Well, exactly. I mean, to be honest, sometimes it happens like that for strikers. They can go such a long time and then they hit score one and they go on this purple patch run. Raul Jimenez, obviously, you got from Wolves. How are the Fulham fans taken to him? I think he's out injured at the moment, is he?
He is, yeah. He won't be available on Saturday unless he recovers very quickly. But he's not been on the bench. So, and even if he was back, I don't think he'd get in the starting lineup anywhere near ahead of Rodrigo Muniz. He's had a big transformation. I think about 8 or 9 games in, he had huge pressure on him. He was missing big chances. He looked so unconfident. He scored a consolation goal against Villa. We lost 3-1, and he scored one in the 10 minutes from time. It meant nothing, but it just suddenly turned for Raul, and then all of a sudden he was scoring goals again, looking confident, looking sharp.
Score a few, didn't he? And he'd gone such a long time without scoring for Wolves, and then Fulham. I guess when you're a striker, you pressure mounts. You strikers are like the guy that you're on about now. They just think that once they're scored and they go on this purple patch, it's effortless. They don't overthink it. Do you think that's what happened with Raul as well?
100%. I mean, the goal he scored against Arsenal on New Year's Eve as well was, I think, just typical, and he was brilliant that game as well. It was such a unfortunate timing when he got his injury. It really just came at a terrible time, really, for Fulham. But Rodrigo Muniz has stepped up to the plate, and I think now if Muniz is our starting striker going forward, Raul can be a brilliant second option off the bench, and you can come on, and if you've dealt with Rodrigo Muniz for 70 minutes and then a confident Raul is coming off for the last 20, no defense is going to relish that because he'll continue the battering. I was really happy for Raul that he turned it around, because obviously you guys saw the tail end of his lack of confidence.
Really loved the Wolves. Raul Jimenez obviously had that awful injury, head injury. And he was never quite the same after that, but he was so much loved. He was a big part of when we went into the Premier League with 2 7th place finishes, the Europa League, him and Jota and Traore. I'm talking of Traore. He's been out. He transferred to Fulham on a free. He kind of ran down his contract with Wolves, was kind of looking for a move to Barcelona or somewhere like that, and then I think he did go back to Wolves, saying, from what I've heard, to say, I will sign the contract now after he left it for ages, but Wolves had kind of moved on. And then Fulham has swooped in for him, but he was out for a long period, and he's just started to start playing for you, hasn't he?
He really has, yeah. I mean, he was a running joke for most of this season because Marcus Silva would do his press conference every week, and every week it'd be like, "Who's out? Adama. Who's out? Adama. Who's out? Adama." And Peter Rutzler.
What was the problem?
I actually don't know. Don't think anyone really. Achilles, something like. I actually not 100% sure what the injury was. It was a muscular one. He's got a lot of them. And
he really does.
Yeah, but he's come back in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and he's just being that option off the bench for us. And we haven't really used him in any other way other than just 15
Did he come off the bench? Is that what he's been doing? He's been coming off the bench?
Yeah, I think 3 or 4 games in a row now he's come off the bench. Obviously, he had a chance to equalise against Villa, which he missed. He then set up the winner at Old Trafford, and it was his run that created the goal. And then he scored our third on Saturday to clinch it. And again, he just comes on and terrifies people. He's still got that aura. And I remember when he used to play for Wolves, and whenever he would come on with 15 minutes to go, you'd think, no. And he's still got that energy. If he can stay fit, he's a hell of a weapon. And we always knew, I think, when we signed him, we were like, if you can keep him fit and happy and confident, he still is one of the scariest players in the Premier League.
He is. He's an incredibly humble guy as well, Adama Traore. He's got super pace. He's the sort of player that gets you off your seat when he starts running. The one thing with Adama, it's always been his end product. The getting your head up to make the pass, finishing goals. He has got that in him, but that was always the thing that kind of like, he had that one great year with Raul Jimenez where they were linking up really, really well. And he's always been a bit of an enigma, Adama. He's always had this blinding pace, this strength that he's got. It's just been the end product. Sometimes he runs down dead alleys and stuff like that, or he'll try and he'll lose the ball in the final third, in your third, and then they'll be in. But if you can get him playing right, he's such an exciting player. And again, he was really loved at Wolves, and we were disappointed in a lot of ways that he kind of contract ran down like it did, and obviously left. And it's good to see that he's doing well at Fulham.
Yeah, no, it's just keeping him fit, I think. Obviously, he's missed a huge chunk of this season, but every time he comes on, something happens. He nearly scored potentially one of the greatest goals of all time against Arsenal away. We would have won 3-2 in the 90th minute, and he had, and it's always that end product. He had to lift it over Aaron Ramsdale, and he just didn't get it right, and it hit Ramsdale in the face, and he saved it. And I mean, it would have been an away win, comeback away win at Arsenal if he'd have scored that. Every time he comes off the pitch, he's done something. It's not always ended up in the back of the net because, as you say, his end product, if he had end product, I mean, he'd literally be playing for Barcelona or one of the.
He went over there, and that was his dream. He went over there, and they didn't have him and stuff like that. You know, and you are right. That's where he's at. But he's always had that potential, and everyone's had that belief in him to do it. Question for you: is he still wearing the baby oil?
Oh, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, it's his trademark. So, I mean, he certainly looks always kind of slightly oiled up. But yeah, I haven't actually seen him. You know why the
baby oil?
I assume because it makes it harder to catch him.
No, basically, players used to try and pull him back and stop him, and he used to dislocate his shoulder a lot. Would come out, so they started putting the baby oil on it to make his arm slippy, so they couldn't grab him and he wouldn't have his arm come out of socket. So that's the reason for it. It's not just because he's Mr. Universe and all that sort of jazz like they do. There is a reason behind it. So it'd be interesting to see. That's why I thought I'd ask, because he's still got the old baby oil coming on.
I haven't noticed, but I will keep an eye out for you and keep you informed.
Fantastic. So on to Wolves. What have you kind of made of Wolves this season? And what were your expectations before the start of the season changed a bit?
Oh, totally. And we did our preseason predictions on the podcast, as every podcast does. And I'm almost ashamed to say that I had Wolves in the bottom three.
A lot of people did, mate.
And now I'm looking at it thinking, like, why were you such a sheep? And I genuinely like to think with my predictions, I don't like I backed Luton stay up this year. Like, I thought, you know what, actually,
they're having a great go as well. They are.
I'm not going to predict Luton because I thought Kenilworth Road would be a fortress.
Yeah.
But I just saw it just looked like absolute chaos. And I thought that Gary O'Neill was
a laughing stock in the summer we were.
I thought Gary O'Neill was a backward step. I was just so stunned. And actually, he's been brilliant. And I remember watching that first game you had at Old Trafford, and you should have beaten them like 3 or 4-0. And it was just an indication of things. And maybe everyone was like, okay, one off. But it was actually an indication of things to come, that United were going to be terrible and Wolves were going to be brilliant. And, you've had some amazing wins this year that we could only have dreamed, to win 4-2 at the Bridge. We've never won at Stamford Bridge.
As well.
We've never won at Stamford Bridge. What I would do...
Hold on. Fulham have never won at Stamford Bridge. Are you sure about that? Is that right?
Not never, since like the 70s, but it's been a long... Yeah, it's been a long time.
I find that interesting because, like, when I go to Chelsea, Chelsea's in Fulham and Fulham's in Chelsea, isn't it?
No, Fulham's in Fulham and Chelsea's in Fulham. No, there's no team in Chelsea.
Oh, right, okay. Because, because you are really close. What's the distance between the two stadiums?
It's about a mile. Well, you know that this is the trivia, is that Chelsea only exists because of Fulham. Because,
go on, tell us about that. It's interesting.
Well, there we go. Stamford Bridge was bought by a businessman called not called Matthew Harding, bought by a businessman, can't remember who by, and he wanted Fulham to be his tenants. Fulham said no because we had Craven Cottage, so he created his own football club in the pub opposite Stamford Bridge. Fulham was already taken. He called them Chelsea, and they were given promotion to the first division over Fulham. He kind of appealed to the league to let them in and not Fulham. And they've always been had the upper hand ever since.
Oh, my God. So are they like your real local? I mean, they are the ones.
Well, it's a one-sided rivalry, isn't it? Because they don't care about us, but we care about them. So we have a number of rivalries. It's Chelsea is the one that Fulham fans want to win the most, but Brentford have obviously been the thorn in the side of late. And obviously, they're the plucky little brother who are I actually like. I would do what I would do to see them get relegated this season.
Really? Tell me why.
Everything about that club. They think they're so. Their fans think they're so special. They think that they. I don't know. They think because they've maybe signed a couple of players off Football Manager or in League One, and there's so many things about Brentford I respect. I respect the way that they treat their fans. I respect the fact that they've been so smart and been so frugal in the way they've got up to the Premier League. But, oh man, their fans are just tiresome. I would love it. And they have this absolute denial of losing their biggest match in their history against us in the playoff final. They say, oh, it didn't matter. It was better for us, etc., etc. No, it wasn't, lads. It's the biggest day of your lives, and you lost it to a rubbish Fulham team managed by Scott Parker. So yeah, we play them third to last game of the season, and then we play Luton on the final day. If Luton winning means Brentford going down,
you're down for it.
I'm in a Luton shirt. I'm there in an orange Luton shirt in the away end.
Yeah, well, Luton have got like Rob Edwards as their manager, who worked a lot at Wolves as well. And I think, do you know what? I think most football fans would love it if Luton stayed up. Yeah. I mean, they're giving everybody a game. They just keep falling short. Even against Villa at the weekend, they came back from 2-0 down to 2-2 and lost 3-2. And there's so many games but they keep going. And I think everyone, if they stay up in 17th place, you'll go, good on you, Luton. That would be, and he'd be, Rob Edwards would be right up there with manager of the season if he kept them up as well, wouldn't he? I'm really looking forward. I always like playing Fulham and going down the Cottage. Is your new stand now? Because when we went down to play earlier in the season, there was a big gap in the middle. There was like, is that now? Why is that not fully? kitted
I
out.
don't
Then
know. It's taken longer. It's taken longer than Sagrada Familia to finish. I don't know. It's taken so long to fit the inside, and it's not an easy stand to build. It's right on the river, and they've done it at significant cost, and I think they want to get it right. But yeah, it's been a bit of a bugbear for Fulham. I mean, there's been lots of, as much as we're very happy on the pitch with Fulham and everything that's happening, I think there's still lots of grumbles in the fan base about our director of football being the Suns owner and seemingly much more interested in wrestling than he is in Fulham. We've had some quite poor transfer windows, and we seem to be getting away with it quite a lot, like under investing in this side. We didn't back Marcus Silva in the summer. The absolutely ridiculous ticket prices that exist at Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a bit of a campaign about that as well, hasn't there?
Yeah. So there's a lot of unrest behind the scenes. We're very happy. We love Marcus Silva and we love this Fulham team, and everyone is on the same, page as regard to that. We would never chant against the players, because I think what we think Marco is one of our greatest managers and coming towards being maybe our greatest ever if he does something like get us back into Europe or won a trophy. But off the pitch, there is a lot of unrest amongst Fulham fans, and yeah, it's been simmering all season and
bubbling under the surface type of thing.
Yeah, it's just and I mean it's the nature of the Premier League, isn't it?
Do you think the fact that the results are going well is kind of keeping a lid on that?
100%. If we were doing badly, it would be really toxic. I think it's bubbling under the surface, but it's very hard to organise protests and things like that, get people on board when ultimately the team's winning on the pitch. And I guess from the club's point of view, that'll be their aim, knowing that, well, keep winning at the weekend and it shuts everyone up. And we know that as well as fans. And so you don't want the team to do badly, but you know that if they did, a lot more of these issues would be a lot more at the forefront.
That's always the way it kind of goes with these sort of things. It's like Wolves fan base were split during the summer, divided about Gary O'Neill, and he has done an amazing job really to get us to, I mean, we're 10th at the moment. We're into the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. We've got a home tie against Coventry to get to the semis. There's an outside shot at Europe. Yeah, we lost to Newcastle at the weekend 3-0, but they were cream crackered after 3 games in 6. That's no excuse at the end of the day, but we have got a small squad, and also we've had players out. We've started to pick up a few injuries. Is there anyone from the Wolves camp that you've sort of got your eye on, a bit concerned about at the weekend? And what sort of style of play and formation does Marco Silva tend to employ?
Well, obviously, I'm not going to lie. I looked at the match report from St. James's Park, saw that Jose Sarr went off injured, and saw that Pedro Neto picked up a knock. So I'm interested to know. I mean, Pedro Neto is the obvious one, right? That is the danger man. Do you think he'll be fit for Saturday?
Well, I think what happened with, obviously, Matheus Cunha's out with a hamstring. Wang picked up a hamstring, which they said was a niggle the previous game. He's out for 6 weeks. So that's 2 of our front 3. Pedro Neto's the other one. He'd been out. I think he had he felt his hamstring was a bit tight. This comes from playing a lot of games. So they took him off as a precaution. So I'm hoping he will be fit, because if he's not fit for Fulham, we're going to have all of our front 3, of which we haven't been able to get them all on the pitch at the same time at all virtually this season, because one injury after the other. Wang went away to the Asia Cup as well when we got both Cunha and Bet. I'm hoping he's fit. Jose Sarr, I think, fell into the post with the first goal, and so I think all being well, the signs are that they will both be fit. I hope. Yeah. If we haven't got Pedro fit, I really do worry. Also, Joe Gomez felt his hamstring as well, and he's been really important for us. Brazilian, he's just had a call up to the Brazilian side as well. He's 23. He's a real winner of the ball in the midfield, and we missed his energy as well. So, yeah, I'm a bit concerned about how fit the squad are at the moment. How we like to play is with speed, getting up the pitch. Do you think Fulham? How do they set up, and do you play on the front foot, or do you sit and break? I mean, how do you tend to set up?
We're extremely adaptable. We don't necessarily play only one way, and we can get our foot on the ball and dominate possession if we need to. But we've also developed how to play on the counter. If, you know, a bit like on Saturday against Brighton, they had over 70% possession. We were happy for them to have that. But likewise, some teams come to the cottage and want to sit back, and Fulham are happy to also get their foot on the ball. So we do tend to adapt our play to counter the opposition in whatever way we need to. So I would expect against Wolves, a counter-attacking side, you will let us have the ball. We will have a little bit more of the ball. We will go there with no fear. I don't think at this point Fulham are in a position where playing for a draw there's any point. Like, we aren't going down.
You're full of confidence as well.
We're full of confidence. We aren't going down. We might as well break into the top 10. A win against you does get us into the top 10, albeit maybe briefly, but this would be a huge opportunity for us. We've got a fully fit squad as well. João Palhinha is back from suspension. He was the one that had been out for the past couple of weeks.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, we have actually got pretty much, apart from Raul Jimenez, who will still be injured, a full roster of players to go for unless something happens between now and Saturday. So we are looking confident, and you know, he has a lot of players to choose from. The bench is looking good again, and that was our big problem in January. We played a lot of cup fixtures. We got to the cup semi-final. The boys, Iwobi and Bassi, were at AFCON, and we were just depleted. And it's so hard to get to the latter stages of competitions, as you guys are finding out. You had to play on Wednesday night, you then lost on Saturday. It's very hard for teams like Wolves and Fulham to get to the latter stages of competitions. It's as fun as it is, and not have some sort of dip in form, because that's exactly what happened to us in January, the Carabao Cup.
Well, as well, if you're playing so often as well, that's where the little niggly injuries start to mount up. Maybe the odd suspension, that type of thing, and then all of a sudden and we had a 15-year-old on the bench against Newcastle. With that depleted, we had a 15-year-old on the bench. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Wolves always struggle to break teams down. That if they'd sit, we struggled to beat Sheffield United. You know, we have been good on the counter. We beat Tottenham. We beat Chelsea. When teams open up against us, we've had the weapons, but because we've got no Wang and no Kuna, and Pedro's a doubt, will we have the weapons to exploit if you sort of give you the ball? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Palhinha's a good player. Do you think you'll hold on to him in the summer? Because wasn't he supposed to leave last summer, and then it all went Pete Tong at the last minute?
Yeah, he was very nearly joined Bayern. I think it's 50-50 whether he stays. He signed a new contract, but that doesn't necessarily mean he'll stay. It might just mean we get more money for him. Yeah. There's just not a lot of clubs for him to go to in without sounding deluded. Like, he's 29, bordering on 30, so he's not young anymore. So that kind of resale potential is maybe, you know, will probably put off some clubs. Yeah. I think Bayern will still be interested because they have cried out for a player like him. So I think there still will be some bids. It's just whether clubs have got the money. We'll want 60 million plus. How many clubs are prepared to spend 60 million plus on someone who's turning 30 soon? Yeah. I think either way for us, it's probably win-win. If we sell him, we'll get a good fee that we can reinvest. If we keep him, well, he's one of the best defensive midfielders in the league.
Yeah, and Wolves were really close to signing Palhinha.
Yeah,
and then for whatever reason we didn't. We all thought we were courting him for a couple of years, and then he's gone to Fulham, and he's been brilliant for Fulham. Just finally, just before we go, what's your prediction for the game? What's your gut telling you?
Do you know what? I'm actually feeling reasonably confident. I think if it was my head and I was, you know, I'd probably say a score draw, but I actually don't see what Fulham have got to lose here. I think that we've got the fitter, fresher squad. We're in form. I could see us nicking a 2-1. And I think, like, looking from the outside at some of Wolves' results this season, you know, I feel like you've performed really well against sides almost above you. And maybe some of the sides beneath you has been where it's been a greater challenge. I watched some of that Sheffield United game. I think Fulham will adapt and probably sit in a little bit in order to, you know, I think we won't. I think we will try and make your life hard. We won't just. We'll have seen the mistakes of Chelsea and Spurs. We're not going to go there and commit the same mistakes that they did. So we know how Wolves can play, and I would imagine we will set up accordingly in order to try and stifle, you know, your very effective weapons as best as we can. I don't know. Got a weird feeling that we might just nick it.
2-1. Well, I wouldn't expect you to say anything less. Finally, mate, thanks ever so much for coming on. How can people find yourself and, of course, Fulhamish you know, you're on YouTube. We'll tag you obviously in this video, of course. But you've got a great podcast as well, and I guess you're on socials too.
Yeah. Check out the YouTube channel because we're actually last time I checked, like 1 subscriber off 6,000, which we'd really like to try. So maybe if one person could subscribe, that would be lovely. Yeah, check out the YouTube channel. We're trying to develop that a lot more at the moment, and putting more content. I'll be in Wolves on Saturday, and I'll do a post-match. We call it the quick take, straight after the game from Molyneux.
Yeah, we call it instant reaction.
Yeah,
Same type of thing, yeah.
Similar thing. So we'll be at the game on Saturday giving our reaction. So if you thrash us 4-1 and you want to see some upset Fulham fans, go over to Fulhamish and we'll be on there.
Fantastic, mate. Listen, Sammy, an absolute pleasure. I hope to catch up with you at the game. That would be really cool. But I really appreciate you coming on. And obviously, I can't wish you all the best for the weekend, but you've had a good season. And like, obviously, I do wish you the best for the rest of the season. Fulham away is always a good one. It's the Cottage is a bit of an iconic ground, and you're definitely going to be in the Premier League next season. But there is one little myth, though, isn't it? Is it a fact that Norwich and Fulham are not allowed to play each other in league football?
We're back. Well, they've broken the we've both broken the cycle now. They seem to be pretty much always in the Championship, and we're now hopefully always in the Premier League.
You were dozy down with them. So now you're staying up. They'll probably stay down again because you never play each other. It's a strange thing, isn't it? But it's a fact.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure their record at Craven Cottage is an absolute stinker as well. I think they've lost their last about 15 to 20 at Craven Cottage as well. So I'm pretty sure they're quite happy about that, never having to come to Craven Cottage.
Absolutely. And there's one thing that's going to make Fulham fans smile. Any of you guys from Fulham that watch this, I know you haven't won at Stamford Bridge. We hadn't beaten Chelsea at Stamford Bridge since 1976, and we did it this year. And we've now beaten Chelsea 3 times in a row. So it's your turn next.
Yeah, let's hope. Thank you. I like that.
All the best, mate. Thanks for joining.